Women in Construction Week is also very important to go out and talk to the women who are out there doing the jobs with their hands. And that's what Krystal, our electrician here at Energy Electric, does every day. So I went out and met Krystal on a job site. We had a great chat. Even just doing these interviews, or chats we'll call them, it just was really nice to learn more about Krystal's story and the challenges she's had and what she's been able to do with her career, the decisions she's made. I believe it's a real story that more of our industry needs to hear, so that young women right now, and that's exactly what I think Krystal did today, is give a good synopsis of her career, all of the challenges associated with it, and it really kind of opened my eyes to what she had to go through to get to where she's at. So please enjoy the conversation between Krystal and I. It is Women in Construction Week, so the idea today is to chat a little bit with Krystal about her career and stuff, why you got into the trades, what was the inkling at the start, and you know where you are now, and having a family, right? You know, having kids and all the fun stuff with that. But where did you grow up?
So originally I'm from Groveton, New Hampshire.
Okay.
All the way up north.
Right.
I actually didn't get into the trades until a little later on.
Okay. Did you have any construction when you were like teenager? Did any of that come into that world at all? Brothers,
Nope.
sisters, dad, uncle? No one really? So then when you came out of high school, what did you get up to?
I actually started going to college for architecture.
There you go.
Really wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
Kind of ran out of money. So reset everything.
Okay.
I did end up going back to school, and it was kind of like a precursor degree for engineering.
Yeah.
But I had to take an electrical course. It was just one of those random electives.
Yeah.
And I just remember like, oh wow, this is really cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
Mind you,
Yeah.
I only did an outlet.
Okay.
I only wired an outlet, and that was it. I was hooked.
You liked it. Yeah. And then at that point, you set yourself maybe apprenticeship, all that. Did you discuss it with friends, family? Were they telling you you're crazy? How, you know, that's all a bunch of guys being assholes. Don't do it. Right. Was there any of that? Like, what are you thinking, Chris?
A little bit. I did have to think about it. My husband is actually an electrician.
Yes, I did know that. Yeah.
And I was very nervous to actually ask him.
Okay.
Because I didn't really know anything about it. You know, I know that's kind of his world. And
so interesting, right? So you came home, decided you wanted to get into the trades, and your husband was already a journey person electrician.
Yep. Well, at the time he was still an apprentice.
Oh, he was an apprentice. Okay, right.
Yep.
Right.
Almost to his. He almost got his journeyman at that point.
Okay.
But
and what did he say at that point?
He's like, it's a great trade.
Yeah. No issue.
No issue.
Yeah.
No issue. And then I transferred everything over and finished the year out in school.
Yeah.
And I waited a year to actually get into the trade. Just. Money-wise and transitioning, we just bought a house.
An interesting one, right? Because that's some of the stuff that would stop people from, you know, how old were you at that point?
I think I was 25.
Okay, so I was 23, I think, 22, 23 when I got into the trade, so I was a little late starter too. And what year was that?
2000, I think it was 2014, 2015. When I first started, because it was right when we were getting ready to move.
Right.
And just a lot of transitioning.
Yeah.
So
did you sit down, spreadsheet, and take out and do the math and understand, you know, this is best case scenario, hourly rate, here's what you're making. You know, it's a bit of a, you know, because that's some of the stuff as you get into your mid-20s, especially people as they get into their 30s. And we had thought about some ideas of giving like a bridge loan to people, because someone who's 30 years old, you're still young, right? You can still get into the trades.
Oh yeah.
And we've talked about that internally, potentially of doing like a bridge loan, saying here's the difference between your current salary if you're working at whatever job. Maybe you're on 25 bucks an hour, now you've got to go back to 18. There could be that $7. We can give you a loan to get back interest free to get you into, like, we've talked about that. But how was that for you guys? Were you
It was a little rough because I was making actually really good money at the time. A lot of overtime, but I hated what I was doing. I absolutely hated it.
What were you doing?
I was doing manufacturing.
Okay.
And the highlights of that job, honestly, was fixing the machines.
Yes, right.
Talking to the engineers, talking to the mechanics.
Yeah.
I was almost kind of destined to be too, because I wasn't happy with where I was. I get bored easily.
Yes, yeah. No, that's a big difference to what you're doing now, right? There's a lot more, I think, variety to the trade. So once you started, who did you start working with as an apprentice at that point?
So I started working with Stellos Electric.
Okay.
They're out in Nashua.
Okay.
I worked there for a few years.
Yeah.
done work for Florence Electric.
Right.
I did take 2 years off.
Yeah.
Which was a little rough to kind of jump back into.
Yeah. Why did you take the 2 years off?
To raise my son.
There you go. You go.
He's 2 years old now.
2 years old now. Brilliant. And talk to me a bit about that, right? You know, when you're doing that, and it's all electrician career household, right? So, you know, you don't turn up, you don't get paid, right? It's not like there's a salary base or there's, you know, it's tough that way. Sometimes I feel like the industry doesn't do a good enough job, but with the decision process with all of that, was it forced, or did you I don't mean to get too much into it, but it is interesting for females in construction, right? To understand that you can do this, right? Career breaks.
You can. Yeah. It's not always the easiest, but you can, you know, you just have to make sure you keep that balance.
Right.
Since I started, I've had 2 kids. You know, the second one was a little rough. Pregnancy was rough.
Okay.
But I even get my daughter, my oldest daughter, I get her into it, you know. She knows how to use an impact.
Brilliant.
You know, like, I get her involved too.
I love it.
When I'm doing prints at my house, you know, she'll color I think I actually have a picture of her coloring right next to me.
That's brilliant.
Doing prints.
I love it. And if you don't mind me asking then, because, you know, my own wife did it, but how long were you still working when you were pregnant? How long did you run that?
So my first my first child, Kaylin, my daughter, I worked right up until I gave birth.
What?
Yes.
On a job site?
Not on the job site. I got very, very lucky. Slightly after, it was that weekend.
Okay.
So I called everybody up and I'm like, well, it's time. I won't be in on Monday.
That's one of the better excuses to call out on a Monday, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's some of the stuff that I think we as a company are trying to, you know, I think promote that there's ways to deal with these life occurrences, right? You don't have to think, oh no, I can't go talk to them. Or in our world, we just want as many females as we can, because I was talking to Morgan, who we were chatting about this too, and, you know, kind of talking about how almost females have to work harder, right, to get that respect on a job site, and to understand that, you know, that I'm just the same as you, but it's like you can't have a bad day or a miss. It's like you can, but like it can be received differently. Have you noticed that, like, as you were in the trades, did you feel you had to work harder, smarter, or how has that been?
A little different. You do there is some discrimination. There is some, what do I want to say? People tend to underestimate you.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
Especially being smaller. You know, at first I did, it bothered me. I worked harder and as fast as I can, as efficient as I can. I met a lot of great people though. And I listened to them. I took everything they said and I absorbed it. And I had a lot of great mentors too, which helped.
Huge.
But eventually I just stopped, not so much caring, but essentially just stopped caring. My work speaks for itself.
Couldn't say any better,
I'll be walking up with somebody a lot younger than me, a lot newer in the trade. And people always go up to that person and kind of completely bypass me. And I'm like, that's all right. And I just start speaking and you let your knowledge out, you let your tone out, and you don't need to let it bother you.
You don't.
You know?
And it's a good attitude to have, because I think it's also, I suppose, over time you're going to be looked up to in that regard once they start to understand your story, you know, because it's weird that way. Like, right, subconsciously we all have biases. That's just natural for a human, right, to walk in and go, well, there's 2 journeyman electricians here and one's a man, one's a female. Well, the man must know more than the female, because why? When they actually think about it, right, it makes 0 sense. Quite the opposite. If they're both doing a similar level of work, you're probably better off chatting to the female, in my opinion, because they have been through probably a lot more than the male to get to where they are.
But you never know. That's why I stop letting it bother me too, because you don't know. You know, anytime somebody comes onto the job site, it doesn't matter who they are, how old, how young, it doesn't matter. You're like, okay, what does this person know? What does this person do? And because I had a rough time in the beginning, I try to let people show me what they can do. And I always ask, I'm like, listen, if I'm telling you something that you already know, let me know, you know?
You're not doing it on purpose. You're just going to do what your best with the scenario, right?
Exactly.
That's interesting. So when it comes to the trades, what's your kind of, like, what's a great day? What's the stuff that you love working on versus, please don't put me on that?
I love anything that's new.
Yeah.
Anything that I haven't done.
Right.
I enjoy doing my own systems.
Okay.
Whatever it may be, whether it's lighting, fire alarm.
You do have a name for fire alarm. You're one of our gurus on the fire alarm that I've heard of, and it's like not something you like to get pigeonholed with either, right? You'd like prefer to be the all-rounder, but yeah, right. you're not afraid of systems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like learning. I like the whole entire process. In fact, like that's kind of kept me in the trade. One of my first big jobs, I was just a helper, an apprentice, helping doing lights. Very dimly lit, huge, probably maybe half this size. Yeah. But, you know, running the wires, putting up the lights. Yeah. And I just remember everything turning on. And I'm like, wow, like I did this. Yes, I was part of this. Yeah, yeah. And then it just grows from there. You know, my first fire alarm system, I literally got thrown into that. Yeah. You figure it out. It becomes a problem, and that's the best part of it.
There's a job satisfaction
really
there, right? Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting. So, what would you, for example, now, as I could ask you, go back to, you know, Krystal on the first day of the electrical trade? What would you say to her, or what lessons learned kind of have you had over the last few years? That if there's an 18-year-old girl thinking about the trades, you know, being Women in Construction Week, like, what would you say to that girl?
I would have to say, just be persistent, speak up. You know, and make sure your voice gets heard. Because if you want to do something, if you want to get your hands on something, you won't unless you ask.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things I've learned. You know, I see somebody else doing something. I was like, oh, what is that? Yeah. Can I try? Yeah, show me, tell me, explain to me.
Yeah, I love that, right? Journey electricians, they love to see that little bit of appetite from anyone to understand. Yeah. Okay, great. Because, you know, there's very few people that you'll walk up to talk to that's an electrician, and you ask them a genuine question and you're standing there like, I don't know, but you know, a bit of humility that would turn around and say, go away, I'm not interested in talking to you. Like the vast majority, I know, especially the energy electric, we're actually require it, right? That you take the time to say, well, come on in here, so I'll show you. Like, all is part of a day's work, right? You can't be walking around the job site saying, hey, what's that? What are you up to today? Trying to avoid work. But like, as part of the process of training and learning, I think it's a key piece, and it's great that you have that attitude. I'm
all about being inclusive too. So if that's the next step, to be inclusive, I'm all for that. But to me, there's bigger things out there than simple words.
There you go.
You know, and like you said, it's the actions. If I'm given the opportunities and not just looked at as a female, if I'm just looked at as just an electrician, just like everybody else, and given those opportunities, to be honest, that's all I care about.
And I'll be honest with you too. Like I want to create opportunities for females, minorities to get into the trades, get into our industry all day long. But when you're here, you earn your stripes. There's no leg up after that. That's the way I'm going to run Energy Electric. That's the way I believe it should be ran. Female, black, white, pink, yellow, I don't care, right? You're here on merit. All right, go earn your stripes.
Diversity is amazing too, because
it's phenomenal.
Everybody has different things to bring to the table.
Yeah, culturally, all that, right? I couldn't agree more. And myself and Morgan, she brought that up. She was saying that diversity on a job site, problem solving, different point of view, it all comes from, you know, I make the analogy of the beautiful garden is made up with many different beautiful flowers, right? It's just, that's the same idea. It's like, you got to have that kind of, it makes you a better company, makes us do better work. No question on it. So, well, thanks very much for talking to us, and you did fantastic. It wasn't that bad, was it?
Wasn't that bad.
No, you're very, very good. You did phenomenal. Thanks very much.